Welcome back, grade 12 scholars. I'm Miss Novak, and we are going to launch into week 9 of your ELA Distance Learning, lesson 39. What can you expect from these lesson videos? You know the deal, it's already in week 9, so you know that each lesson is going to be a little bit different. You'll also always provide a list of materials and resources that you'll need for the day's lesson. We'll move through an overview of the learning. I'll always make sure to model a lesson component, especially as it relates to a writing task or close reading effort. And lastly, we'll always preview the learning for the next day's lesson. This is day 1 of learning for us this week. We will begin reading Military Bases, Build Communities, and Support Families. Our task today will be to read the text, annotate the text, obviously in the first read, and to summarize what we've read. Remember, a summary is an objective viewpoint, but you already knew that. The video title is ELA G12 W9 L39. Let's get into it. All great lessons start off with a few reminders, don't they? In this case, they do. So first of all, make sure that you're making time to share your learning with someone following today's lesson. It's a really interesting article, so it should spark some interesting conversation. Next, you're going to complete your weekly fluency activity. If you need a quick reminder of what that is, flip back to the beginning pages of your packet, and it will let you know exactly what the expectations are or suggestions are for each day. Today is all about timing your reading efforts. And lastly, make sure that you are carving out 20 minutes to read that independent reading book that you have now come to love, hopefully, or starting a new one. Keep that in mind as we move forward. Ready to stretch our thinking muscles. It's not a stretch, this is a stretch. What do you think of when you see this pictogram puzzle? Take a few minutes to look at the image and think about what types of words or phrases this conjures up. Pause the video if you need to, because I'm about to reveal the answer in the next slide. And the answer is walk in the park. Did you get it? Now, walk in the park is an expression that means something that is very easy and pleasant, just like this lesson. Let's get going. The materials and resources that we'll need for today's lesson are all found in a very familiar place, your grade 12 learning packets. So first, the lesson 39 is on page 127, the note catcher is on page 128, the text is on pages 124 to 126, and of course make sure you have on the ready something to write with, and bonus round if you have a highlighter. Get these materials together before we start our lesson. As I mentioned, this week we will be reading and analyzing a news article entitled Military Bases, Build Communities, Support Families. As we're reading this, we are always keeping the unit's essential question in mind. What does it mean to call a place home? In addition, we're using the guiding questions to help guide our reading. What makes a place important enough to write about, and in what ways is home both a place and a state of mind? We'll collect these questions, have them on reserve, and make sure we refer back to them during our lesson activities this week. Our learning target for today is, I can read and write a summary of an article. You know how I feel about the skill of summarization. It's such an amazing talent. And yes, I'll call it a talent. The ability to condense information into an easily digestible form for an outside audience is huge. And that's what we get to do today. And now for an overview of our learning. We'll first start off by reading the article in a first read. We'll notice, annotate, connect, and respond to the summary, right? We'll then go back and reread the article, and we'll try to find details about a specific topic. After this, you'll think about what is available on the military base described, and how the author's details affect the impression that you have about life at this particular camp. Next, you will finally write a summary. So you'll be taking all of those items that you uncovered and responded to in the first read, and you'll write an objective summary of the text, making sure at the tail end of today's lesson to look up any unfamiliar words you might have noticed, especially because they might help you as the week unfolds. And lastly, you always know that we close off our lesson by at least scheduling some time to read our independent reading material. As you read the article, make sure to complete the steps of a first read routine. You already know what they are, but just as a review. When you're reading, make sure that you're underlining words or phrases that happen to stand out to you. You might want to draw a box or circle any unfamiliar words that you're going to refer back to later, or you can try to figure them out using context clues right then and there. Next, you'll be writing down any reactions or questions you have of the text. Make use of your margins. They're there for a reason. Take some time, pause the video, and complete your first reading efforts of the article right now. Welcome back after those first read efforts. Our next step is to move into a close read. For this, I'd like you to reread the text and mark details that the author shares about what is available at Camp Pendleton. Use the notes in your margins then to write about the impression these details give us about life at the camp. Before moving into this, I'm going to provide you with a quick model using a first chunk of the text. As promised, let me move through a model of this close read. I'm going to turn to the last page of the text on page 126, and I'm going to read for us a small little chunk, and then I'll let you know why I underlined the part that I did and what I captured in my notes. So to start, it remains a strong belief among military families that civilians do not understand their lives. The constant moving, the raising of children with a parent far away, and the fear of losing a loved one to war all combine together to make it difficult for outsiders to understand them. We've lost a few friends to war, said Jolene Bopp, 25, whose husband is Sergeant Jostin Bopp, but you learn to live with the losses. Like many wives, Bob appreciates the shopping options on the base and the sense of safety for the children. However, she says that there are times when you just need to get away. So in this particular section, I chose to lift up the detail, the shopping options on the base. Now from here, I know that there's more than one store, so residents have a choice in this matter, which gives them a little bit of sense of freedom. It also creates that sense of normalcy too. And when all of these items are contained just on the base, it's pretty convenient too that you don't have to travel outside to go and get this good, to go to this type of store. So the options create a sense of community and convenience. Take some time to move into your close reading efforts. Now that you've completed your close reading efforts, let's move into the thinking and talking components of today's lesson. So after your close read, you gathered up a lot of notes, right? I'm going to ask you to think about what is available at Camp Pendleton and why military families may want to live there. And we're looking at the convenience standpoint. We're looking at the fact that a lot of families endure the same type of lifestyle, right? Just a couple pointers. And then what I'd like you to do is with a family member, a caregiver, or a friend, talk about the impression that the author gives us about what life is like at the camps. As an additional bonus, think about it if this is a place that you might enjoy living. And as you're talking to someone at home or a friend, let's ask them, do you think that your family or our family would enjoy living there? Try to situate yourself in the article. Pause the video now and take some time to complete these steps. Now it's time for your writing task for today's lesson, which is to write an objective summary in 5 to 7 sentences. Remember, you're leaving your opinion out of it. Also, a key point here is you may want to use the headings found within the article to help you construct your summary. Next, after you've completed that step, look back to the words and phrases that you circled, you were unsure about. Define those words using context clues first, if you can, and then go back and look them up in a dictionary to affirm your understanding. There's space in the note catcher for both of these efforts. Now that we've completed a first read and a close read of this article and responded to the text and a summary, and we have engaged in really thoughtful conversations, it's now time for us to move on to additional activities. In Lesson 40, the target for tomorrow's lesson is, I can identify and evaluate evidence in a text to support a claim. Let's get ourselves ready for that. As always, if you have any questions about today's learning or the lesson itself, please reach out to your teacher at their first name, their last name at DetroitK12.org. I'm sure they'd love to help you along the way. Thank you for learning with me today. Before we close up on lesson 39, can you believe it? Here's a few quick reminders. The first one is to not forget to talk about today's lesson with someone. Really interesting subject, military bases, different kind of living, the supports that are given to military families, especially if you have someone in your own family, like I do, who was a military vet. Next, make sure that you're reading for 20 minutes. And again, marking your reading efforts in your reading log. And lastly, fluency practice. Don't let this one slide. Remember, Monday's suggestion is to time your reading. So if you need a quick refresher and you want to engage with this using this article, which I think you should, go back and do so. We'll see you tomorrow for lesson 40.